When the Tesla Model Y first came out in March of 2020, I was lucky enough to be one of the first 2,200 cars delivered. This was exciting, but did come with some downsides like a number of fit and finish issues and repairs I had to get fixed by Tesla service, and that was because it was such a new model. I dealt with that, and then a few months ago when I rented the Model Y out on Turo, the renter got rear-ended. I made a video about the whole repair process, and it was a long one, but unfortunately this time I got rear-ended in the same car. The car wouldn't drive after the crash this time though, and I was stuck on the freeway until Highway Patrol pushed me off. I learned a lot about a frustrating but necessary safety measure that Tesla owners should definitely know about, so today I'm going to detail my accident, what I learned from my towing experience, and the repair process, so let's get into it. As I mentioned, unfortunately a few months ago my Model Y was rear-ended while out on Turo. Overall I dealt with it in the same way I'm dealing with this new accident, but I learned a lot. Ultimately I got the car repaired for right around $10,000, paid by the at-fault driver's insurance. I also received loss of income since the car was out of commission and unable to be utilized on this channel or on Turo, diminished value since the car is worth less having been in a collision now, and got the PPF replacement covered as well. Everything took an incredibly long time, especially dealing with AAA for reimbursements, but it got solved and my Model Y was as good as new. So that was all finally resolved about 2 months ago, and then I got into an accident on the 210 near East Pasadena. The exact same type of accident, and I was stuck there for a while. Long enough, in fact, that I'm sure watching this, some of you drove past me and saw my Model Y stuck in the shoulder of the freeway. Unfortunately, I actually don't have Sentry mode footage of this event because I use a dock that connects to my own drive. This is a 2020 Model Y before they added the handy USB port in the glove box with an included flash drive. That dock got dislodged, so the footage didn't save and I couldn't recover it. This actually happened in the last accident too, so if you use a dock in this older style center console, watch out for that and make sure it is secure. I'm going to have to stop using the dock since it's happened twice. I was on my way to a recording session using the carpool lane as a clean vehicle in California, and there was a sudden slowdown. I saw the cars in front of me brake extremely quickly. I had to brake extremely quickly. I checked my rear view mirror and knew for about 1 second that I was about to get hit. Their Nissan SUV slammed into my car at probably 40 to 50 miles an hour, and I was nearly stopped, so it felt pretty extreme. My percussion bag that was in the trunk completely flipped on top of itself, and my chai latte spilled quite a bit. The lid didn't come off though, so shout out to Starbucks for that lid integrity. The airbags didn't go off, but the seatbelt absolutely held me in place and locked. It was completely cinched off at the top afterwards and wouldn't move at all. So I was definitely happy to be in one of the safest cars out there, but also very sad to see my Model Y smashed yet again. Here's what the damage looked like to the car. This was the exact same accident as last time, a rear ending, but as you can see, it's much more extreme. Inside the car, it smelled like an explosion of some sort happened, a small one. So I figured either the airbags potentially were ready to fire and didn't, or I was smelling the airbags from the other person's car who hit me, but they were about 40 feet back on the freeway at this point. Their airbags absolutely went off. It turns out that what I was smelling was the pyro fuse blowing, and that's something I learned about after this accident. I'll explain it in more detail in a bit, and it's actually very important to know about as a Tesla or electric vehicle owner in case of a collision. I walked away with no issues aside from some lower back soreness the next 2 days and a bruise on my upper left thigh where the seatbelt truly held me in. I haven't heard from the other drivers since the day of, but they were walking around just fine. Everything is healed fine, and I'm very grateful for that. The story really only begins there though, because I had a really hard time getting this car off the freeway and towed properly, specifically because it's a Tesla. I immediately called Highway Patrol after the accident, and they arrived after about 10 minutes, so we were holding up the carpool lane that entire time. They blocked off all of traffic while they got us off the freeway, and my car had every alert possible on screen. It wouldn't actually drive in any way, even though it seemed fine. It just looked a little smashed in the back interior. From the inside, I couldn't see any damage. But on screen, you can see automatic emergency braking disabled, electrical system is unable to support all features, vehicle may not restart, front left safety restraint system fault, please wait while vehicle systems power up, safety restraint system fault, unable to drive, power reduced, vehicle shutting down, lane departure avoidance features unavailable, cruise control disabled, automatic vehicle hold disabled, traction control disabled, stability control disabled, and there were probably more. It was pretty crazy to see how much went wrong in an instant. I tried shifting into drive, reverse, neutral, and even looked into the menus to see if I could disable the parking brake. There is a tow option in settings that I could have potentially tried to use here in the service menu, but it seemed that the brakes were locked and that option didn't work when we tried it later. When CHP arrived, they asked if I could drive, and obviously I couldn't, but their priority is clearing the freeway to alleviate traffic and make sure I'm not stuck on the freeway in danger, so it makes total sense. So he pushed me off the freeway, ramming the already smashed rear of my car with his cruiser with my brakes locked, tires screeching across the freeway and all, all, using his PA to tell me where to steer. The other driver of the Nissan SUV that hit me was able to drive over to the shoulder, even with the front of their car completely smashed. This was definitely frustrating to have a Tesla and not be able to drive it after what seemed like a fairly normal rear ending, and I didn't understand why. After settling all the paperwork with the officer, I called AAA, and that's my first mistake that I learned. If you need roadside assistance and your Tesla will not drive or shift into neutral, you're going to want to request roadside assistance through the Tesla app. They use contractors, but they know what to do and will tow you using skates if necessary. AAA will not do this on the freeway. After a 50-minute wait on the side of the 210 with my broken Model Y, AAA finally came. They tried to get the car into neutral, and we tried tow mode multiple times. Nothing worked, and he said there was nothing he could do. There was no way that he could get the car onto the tow truck with what AAA is allowed to do, so he drove away. I still was very confused and frustrated, but I called Tesla Roadside Assistance, and they were able to get the right person to tow it. However, they were dispatched from Northridge, so it took another lovely hour. I needed to use the restroom, so I ended up running down the embankment on the side of the freeway to go find one. And here's a clip of me looking up at my Model Y stuck on the side of the road. This started getting very frustrating because the guy who hit me in a normal gas-powered SUV drove off the freeway fine, and if he couldn't have driven, he probably would have been able to engage neutral to easily be pushed off. Then he got towed a full 2 hours before my car, and I was stuck there this whole time. Part of their quicker towing time was because they called AAA first, but the main wait was specifically because I had a Tesla. Super frustrating. I figured there must be a safety reason, and there is, and it's specific to EVs. At this point, the car was completely dead, and I realized later that it had been running, keeping the screen and such on using only the 12-volt battery, which ended up dying completely as I waited for the right tow truck. The tow truck driver dispatched by Tesla Roadside finally came and had to jump the car. It powered on the 12-volt battery, but ended up dying after about a minute, so the tow mode that he knew how to use properly would not engage either. He weaseled the car onto the bed with brakes still locked. It was crazy to watch, terrifying actually, as he slid it up using skates and WD-40. Once it was up, I got some better views of the significant damage to the car and even picked up a brake light cover that fell off. From there, I rode with him to the collision center that conveniently was located near my recording session that I was 4 hours late for at this point. The timestamp on the photo I took after getting hit was 8:58 a.m. The timestamp of me actually getting towed was 12:50 p.m. This is mostly because I didn't know AAA wouldn't be able to tow it, and I waited for them. I figured they can tow anything, but they weren't willing to tow a dead Tesla off the freeway since it wouldn't drive. It's definitely something I learned the hard way, and hopefully you won't need to. If you need to tow and the car won't drive, call Tesla Roadside Assistance first. Luckily, with the crazy amount of time it took, the recording session I was headed to was scheduled to be all day, and everyone was extremely kind and understanding. They even picked me up from the collision center, and we were still able to get all the recording done that day. As a quick aside, I was recording for the Snoopy Show, which is on Apple TV+, and if you watch Snoopy in Space, the Snoopy Show, Who Are You, Charlie Brown, or Auld Lang Syne, the new Peanuts holiday special, that's all me on drums. In any case, when I went to the collision center the next day to see what was up with my car, half expecting it to be totaled after the insane amount of on-screen alerts and the fact that it wouldn't drive, they informed me that it's actually a fairly standard repairable rear ending. But the pyro fuse blew, which was what shut down the car. This is something to take note of for the future with Teslas and likely all upcoming EVs. It's actually not super easy to find info about it online, but essentially, if an impact is bad enough that it could affect the integrity of the battery pack, the pyro fuse blows and disconnects all energy transferring to and from the battery instantly. A description of a pyro fuse from a manufacturer of them says, quote, SPU have developed pyro fuse that enables safe, instantaneous shutdown of high voltage electrical currents. For accidents specifically, they say, quote, protection from electric shocks and fire by isolating the battery in case of car crashes. So this is what happened to my Tesla. The battery pack was instantaneously isolated and inoperable to prevent anything that could lead to a battery fire. It's a safety measure that is extremely useful, but not something we're used to with gasoline vehicles and not something I think many people know about. I know I didn't really know about it, but it finally answered my question as to why it smelled like something exploded in the car. That was the pyro fuse blowing to keep me safe and prevent a fire, and you can see it here with the rear seats off at the collision center. It's located under the right rear seats in this particular car, according to the people at the collision center. Luckily, the battery pack is fine and there were no issues found with it, but the repair cost this time around is significantly more than last time. I filed a claim through Tesla Insurance and will be running the repair itself through them and paying my deductible of $1,000. I wasn't at fault though, so I'll be getting that from the insurance of the driver who hit me, among the other things like loss of income, but I'll describe that more in a minute. First, First, the repair estimate came in, and it's pretty crazy since it's more than the cost of a lot of cars on the road. The repair estimate came out to a whopping $19,779.08. As you can see on the breakdown, there are parts and labor charges for electrical, wheels, cowl, restraint systems, seats and racks, roof, pillars, rocker and floor, front door, quarter panel, rear suspension, rear body and floor, liftgate, rear lamps, and rear bumper. The main most expensive parts themselves that I can see on here are the LT quarter panel at $1,150, the liftgate at $1,200, and the rear bumper cover at $680. This will be the third set of some of these parts on this 2020 Model Y of mine. Not even 2 years old, and it has been in 2 similar accidents. At this point, the parts have been ordered from Tesla, so they will likely come in a few weeks, and then the repairs will take a couple weeks from there. Tesla's part constraints do make their way down to the ability to get replacement parts, which is an unfortunate part of these cars. That repair cost is extremely high, but since I was not at fault, I won't be paying a dime or losing any potential earnings. I plan to follow the same process that I did with my last accident. For one, and different than last time, I'll have to pay my $1,000 deductible as a result of this accident. If they hadn't hit me, I wouldn't have had to pay that, making their insurance responsible for that. Then I had to cancel a Turo rental happening a few days later and have had to unlist the car from Turo for at least a month. I'll be seeking loss of income there since that income would have been earned if this driver hadn't hit my car. Depending on how long this repair lasts as well, I may try for loss of income for not being able to film a Model Y specific video in the entire 4 to 6 weeks that it's being repaired. Lastly, I'll submit for diminished value. Even though the car will be returned to me in condition that is as good as new, people just don't like cars that have been in accidents. Regardless of how good the repairs are, this car is immediately worth less money. When I go to trade it in, it will receive less, but diminished value has a specific calculation using the NADA trade-in value. When following the proper procedure for calculating diminished value, I get an NADA trade-in value of $67,400 on my car. Since it has already been in an accident and repaired, I now have to choose average trade-in rather than clean trade-in, which reduces the value by a couple $1,000s. I multiply that by a 10% cap multiplier, multiply that by 0.75 for major damage to panels and structure, then multiply that by 0.8 for the odometer of 20,000 to 39,999 miles. In the end, that calculates to a diminished value of $4,044 that I will be seeking from Farmers, the insurance of the driver who hit me. This calculation is estimating how much less my car is now worth, so they pay the difference. For the final step, I'll have them cover the cost of the PPF replacement that I'll need to get after the repairs are complete at the collision center and the paint has cured. My car will be made whole and it won't have cost me anything. I'll walk away with my car exactly as it was, but still, this always takes a lot of time, so I would love to not get in another car accident. There are a few lessons I've learned between my 2 Tesla accidents, so I'll summarize them here and hopefully they are helpful for you. For one, repair costs are high on Teslas. This may scare some people from buying them, but you are paying for what you get in the car, and particularly with the safety that you get. The repair cost is high, but you are also in one of the safest cars you can buy, and insurance will cover it if you have the right coverage. I would make sure that you have collision coverage so you only really have a deductible to worry about, and a repair cost like $19,700 won't actually affect you yourself. Second, the pyro fuse exists and completely disconnects the battery in a bad enough accident. It's a safety measure that will be standard on all EVs, and we'll see many more people affected by this going forward as EVs get more popular. It's necessary but frustrating to have to deal with, especially if you don't know and AAA also doesn't know why the car won't drive. You can try tow mode on screen under service, but if your Tesla won't drive, Tesla Roadside Assistance is the place to call first. I would have saved myself a good hour and a half on the side of the freeway and a ton of stress if I had called them first. Hopefully they are available near you because they will know how to get your Tesla onto the truck and understand why it won't drive. As I mentioned, this is going to affect much more than just Teslas going forward, so I'm really curious to see if AAA will end up having to adjust their practices. They are one of the most popular companies to call for towing services, and they will likely soon be dealing with a lot more cars that have blown pyro fuses and the issues I had. The third thing I've learned through all of this is that you need to push with insurance companies and understand what you deserve. As my dad likes to say, if you are not at fault in the accident, it is the responsibility of the insurance to make you whole again. After all is said and done, you shouldn't have paid a dime to return your car to the state it was in before being hit. This includes your deductible, diminished value, loss of income, and all the things I mentioned earlier. With the Turo accident, I dealt with AAA insurance, and at first they told me that they just didn't provide those things. I pushed back and ended up getting all of those things covered. Lastly, Teslas are safe cars. In this accident, accident, I was lucky that it was mild and fairly standard safety on my end. I'm sure that most cars today would have kept me just as safe in this particular accident, but it did a great job and I didn't feel much from that pretty hard impact. The Model Y is at the collision center right now, so I still have many steps ahead of me before it's back to normal, but I'm happy that nobody was hurt in this accident. I hope that this video was helpful for you, and in the meantime, if you want to check out the latest Tesla news, including a super long-range Model S prototype, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.